if it's going to be anyone that's going to get a first round finisher out of the first round, it's going to be bloody Johnny Walker. And not only did he get him out the first round, he finished him as well. He took his lead leg out with 3 vicious leg kicks and then TKO Zhang Mingyang. Not much more to say. We'll get into that fight. We'll do our little quick recap, my reaction to UFC Shanghai. UFC Shanghai was on the way to being a generational fight night. It was looking to be absolute quality. Unfortunately, the main card slowed it down a little bit. Still gonna go down as a pretty epic fight card, but could have been great. That is what I will say. So we'll get into these first few fights. I had a little commitment this morning, so I actually missed the first couple fights, only to come back home and see that the 10th or 11th Ezekiel choke ever happened in the first fight. So that was a submission win for Sati Baldiev. First round submission via Ezekiel choke. Pretty crazy. I had him winning by decision. Didn't happen. Then Long Chiao against Yuso Young. Also decision win for Yuso Young. So 2 good starts there. And then it started, the beginning. Here, Yiza with the first round KO of Weston Wilson. Slept him bad. I can't remember what he caught him with now. I think it was a hook that started it. But yeah, KO'd Weston Wilson. Many saw that coming. A bit of a layup fight for Yiza. And yeah, it happened. Then Kyle Dorcas on my YouTube. I didn't put this on my Instagram because I myself bitched out at the last second. But Kyle Dorcas got it done as the underdog and KO'd Michel Pereira in 43 seconds of the first round. It was crazy. I told you, Oaks, that Michel Pereira can be hit or miss, and he's been recently looking ass, and he got absolutely slept. He got up, tried to kind of protest the stoppage, but he was absolutely done for. So, exciting stuff ahead for Kyle Dorcas. Who knows? Zhu Rong against Austin Hubbard. This fight was also pretty decent fight. It wasn't anything too special, but it certainly wasn't boring. Just a decent watch, and Zhu Rong just outworked Austin Hubbard and got the decision win. Oh my goodness, Charles Johnson against Lanier Kavanagh. Lanier Kavanagh is such a hot prospect, and he came out in this fight and he looked clean, he looked crisp, he looked phenomenal in that first round. But suddenly, in the second round, the new prospect killer, Charles Johnson, showed that he can take a fight a little bit later, and towards the end of the second round, he flatlined Kavanagh, slept him with the check hook. Kavanagh rushed in, threw a couple punches, and as he came out of the pocket, he dropped his hands. He was getting a bit cocky, and Johnson made him pay. Kavanagh is still a super good fighter, and he'll definitely be back though. But yeah, good win for the vet Johnson. Prelim card, the main fight to finish it off was Mahashate against Gage Young. Mahashate, an enormous lightweight at 6 feet. Honestly, I think cutting that much weight when you're that big maybe does drain your stamina a little bit. Mahashate certainly looked a little bit labored as the fight went on. And yeah, it was a good performance from Gage Young. He just stayed active, whereas Mahashate was always looking for the big sort of knockout or big punch, and he wasn't always landing it. So he got outworked there for a nice decision win for Gage Young. Moving into our main card, I had very big, high hopes for this, and it just wasn't quite what I expected, but we'll get into it. Nuraji against Kiefer Crosby to start off the main card. Obviously, a little bit of a controversial win there for Nuraji. He was dominating Kiefer Crosby a little bit. Crosby tried to go for a takedown initially and instantly got put on his back and was, was getting mounted. And then Nuraji landed an illegal knee, which cut Crosby open. Crosby decided to be a hard son of a bitch and carry on, even though was cut so bad and he was so rocked. And then Goddard took 2 points away from Nuraji, and then Nuraji ended up TKOing Crosby about 30 seconds after that. So honestly, Crosby should have taken the DQ win there, but all respect to him for carrying on. Sumudaerji against Kevin Borjas. Pretty average fight. Oaks were just on the feet. Sumudaerji was outworking Borjas. Borjas really didn't look like I thought he was going to look. I thought he was going to come in and be dangerous and show that he had a disrespectful betting line, but honestly, he just didn't look like he gave Sumudaerji any sort of problems, and he lost that one. So decision win for Sumudaerji. Pavlovich versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. We are now 0-2 in the last 2 weeks of Underdog of the Week. This was another dangerous one going with Waldo Cortez Acosta. He didn't look that good against Pavlovich, and Pavlovich didn't look that good against Cortez Acosta. They were both pretty tentative, and then they would kind of rush in, throw a big few punches, kind of land a few. But my issue with Pavlovich was every time he seemed to hurt Cortez Acosta, he didn't rush in. I think after that knockout against Aspinall, it's really changed him as a fighter, and since that he hasn't had a finish in the UFC. So I think they say it changes you as a fighter when you get knocked out, and I certainly think that was the case for Pavlovich, because he definitely looked a lot more tentative, not as aggressive as he usually does, but he outworked Cortez Acosta 30-27 unanimous. Cortez Acosta landed a few big shots, and he certainly absorbed a few big shots from Pavlovich, so respect there, but he just didn't have anything for Pavlovich. I think the range was a bit too hard for him to work with. Couldn't get his boxing going. And he got outworked. Good decision win for Pavlovich. I wonder what'll be next for him. Co-main event, Oaks. The UFC screwed this event up big time, because after the weight cut issues with Ortega, she should have just scrapped the fight altogether. But to not only not scrap the fight, but then to let it be a 5-rounder, which originally Sterling was saying, what's the point, because he's not getting paid extra. But they made it go 5 rounds, which meant that these Oaks wanted to conserve energy, so they were fighting a 5-round fight, and Ortega definitely knew he wasn't going to have that 5-round stamina, so he was, off the gas pedal completely. If it was a 3-rounder and Ortega didn't mess up his weight cut, let me make that clear, this would have been an absolute banger. I think they would have given their all for 3 rounds. They mostly stayed on the feet, which was exciting. And I think if it was a 3-rounder, it would have been a lot more high pace on the feet fight, or it would have even been some high pace grappling mixed in there. But I think them both being good with the jiu-jitsu and stuff, it was, maybe always going to be more of a stand-up sort of fight. But Oaks, if this was a 3-rounder and Ortega didn't mess up his weight cut, I think it would have been a really good fight. But it just ended up being pretty boring. Ortega looked nowhere for the first 3 rounds. Sterling completely outworked him. Then Ortega showed a bit of fight in rounds 4 and 5. But ultimately it wasn't enough. He was getting outworked by Sterling everywhere. And he hurt Sterling in the 5th round, but really couldn't do much about it. And it was a 50-45 for Sterling in the end. So Ortega looking like a shell of his former self, and I think a move up to lightweight will do him good, or he must just hang up the gloves. I think he's still got some, good fighting to give, but it's clear that his body maybe isn't there anymore. And then the main event, which was just not what anyone expected. I think me and most people thought 1st round finish, here we go. Zhang Mingyang is going to absolutely knock out Johnny Walker. And not only did Johnny Walker fake a glove touch and instantly shoot like Hamzat, but he got put on his back instantly as well. So that was just horrendous decision from him. And then, got kind of pieced up with some ground and pound on the feet. He caught some big shots from Zhang Mingyang in the 1st. And then, he survived, got it into the 2nd round. And then he was getting caught a few times with the punch again from Zhang Mingyang in the 2nd round. But then ultimately he landed 2 big leg kicks. First one folded Zhang a little bit. Second one completely took his leg out. I think it hit that peroneal nerve. And as he fell on the floor, Johnny Walker landed a 3rd one just for good measure. And then he was hitting him with ground and pound. And Zhang Mingyang was moving away from the shots, but he couldn't stand up. He literally couldn't stand up. They talk about the peroneal nerve in your leg, and it must have been the same thing that happened to Sugar. It's the same for Zhang Mingyang. He could not stand up. So whether he was moving or not was irrelevant, because he couldn't stand up, so he just kept absorbing ground and pound. And eventually Mark Goddard stepped in and stopped the fight, and Johnny Walker came away with the win. If anyone could do it, it is Johnny Walker. That Oak is just the goofiest Oak out there. But at the end of the day, it was a cool performance from him. And all in all, a really fun card, especially the prelims were just amazing to watch. And then it did just slow down a bit towards the end. But I was really happy with it. Unfortunately, the betting was a bit hit or miss. But you're always going to have those types of weeks every now and then. But Alex, as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll check you in the next one.